Noah and Grace's Adventure in Apple Grove. In a small village surrounded by rolling hills and gentle streams lived two best friends named Noah and Grace. Noah and Grace spent most of their days exploring the countryside, finding joy in the simplest of adventures. One warm summer morning, they decided to set off on a new journey to the far side of Apple Grove, a place they'd heard stories about but had never visited. Apple Grove was known for its tall apple trees and the sweet scent of ripe fruit that filled the air. Noah and Grace packed a small picnic with bread, cheese, and a few apples they had picked the day before. They also filled their water bottles and brought a blanket, knowing they might want to rest somewhere along the way. They met by the old oak tree at the edge of the village, their usual meeting spot, and set off together. The path to Apple Grove was lined with wildflowers, their bright colours swaying gently in the breeze. Bees buzzed from flower to flower, and the occasional butterfly fluttered by, adding to the beauty of the day. Grace hummed a tune as they walked, her eyes scanning the horizon for anything interesting. Noah, ever the curious one, kept an eye on the ground, searching for unusual stones or bugs. "Do you think we'll find anything special today?" Grace asked, her voice full of wonder. Noah smiled. "I think every day is special if you know where to look," he replied. After walking for a while, they reached the edge of Apple Grove. The trees were even taller than they had imagined, their branches heavy with bright red apples. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled patterns on the ground. Grace took a deep breath, savouring the sweet scent of the apples, while Noah looked around, his eyes wide with excitement. "Let's find a good spot to sit and have our picnic," Grace suggested, pointing to a patch of soft grass beneath one of the largest trees. They spread out their blanket and sat down, unpacking their simple meal. As they ate, they talked about all the things they wanted to do that summer. Build a treehouse, camp under the stars, and maybe even learn to fish in the nearby river. It was easy to dream big when they were together, and the world felt full of possibilities. After lunch, Noah stood up and stretched. "I wonder what's beyond those trees," he said, pointing to a denser part of the grove. Grace's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Only one way to find out," she said, and they packed up their things and set off once more. The deeper they went into Apple Grove, the quieter it became. The air was cool, and the ground was covered in soft moss that muffled their footsteps. They came across a small clearing where a fallen tree had created a perfect spot to sit. Noah climbed onto the tree trunk, balancing carefully, while Grace sat down and looked around. "Look, Noah," she whispered, pointing to a small round hole in the trunk of a nearby tree. "Do you think something lives in there?" Noah hopped down from the fallen tree and crept closer to the hole. He peered inside, his eyes wide with curiosity. "I think it might be a bird's nest," he said softly, motioning for Grace to come closer. Grace joined him, and together they watched as a small bird, no bigger than Noah's hand, poked its head out of the hole. It looked at them for a moment before chirping softly and disappearing back inside. Noah and Grace exchanged delighted smiles, feeling as though they had just witnessed something very special. "We should leave it alone," Grace said. "We don't want to scare it." Noah nodded in agreement, and they quietly moved away from the tree. They continued exploring, finding more wonders. A patch of wild strawberries growing in a sunny spot, a family of squirrels chasing each other up a tree, and even a small stream they hadn't known was there. The water was clear and cool, and they took off their shoes, dipping their feet in and laughing at how cold it was. After spending some time by the stream, they noticed something unusual. A group of stones arranged in a circle, almost like a little garden. In the center of the circle was a small patch of blue wildflowers, their petals glowing in the sunlight. "Look at this," Grace said, her voice filled with wonder. "Do you think someone made it?" Noah knelt down, examining the stones. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe it's just nature being amazing." They sat by the stone circle for a while, adding a few more stones to the arrangement and admiring the blue flowers. It felt like they had discovered a secret, something that only they knew about. As they continued their exploration, they came across a large hollow log. Noah, always the adventurous one, decided to crawl through it. Grace giggled as she watched him disappear into the log, only to pop out the other side, his face flushed with excitement. "You have to try it, Grace," Noah called, his laughter echoing through the grove. Grace hesitated for a moment before crawling through the log herself. It was dark and cool inside, and for a moment she felt like she was in another world. When she emerged on the other side, she was laughing just as hard as Noah. They spent the rest of the afternoon exploring every corner of the grove, finding new wonders at every turn. A tree with a branch shaped like a perfect seat, a cluster of mushrooms that looked like tiny umbrellas, and even a rabbit that hopped across their path, disappearing into the bushes. As the sun began to set, they knew it was time to head back. They made their way out of the grove, their hearts full of the day's discoveries. When they reached the edge of the grove, they turned back to look at the tall apple trees, their branches swaying gently in the breeze. "Today was amazing," Grace said, her voice soft with contentment. Noah smiled. "It really was. I think the best adventures are the ones where we find things we didn't even know we were looking for." Grace nodded, and they started walking back toward the village, the sun dipping low in the sky and casting long shadows across the fields. As they walked, they talked about their favorite parts of the day: the bird in the tree, the wild strawberries, the cool stream, and the mysterious stone circle. They knew that they would remember this day for a long time, not because of anything grand or magical, but because of the simple joys they had shared together. And as they reached the old oak tree where their journey had begun, they knew that there would always be more adventures waiting for them. Hidden in the groves, fields, and hills of their beloved village, ready to be discovered one day at a time.